Welcome to the first episode of our World War II series. In this journey through history, we'll uncover the events, individuals, and circumstances that shaped the course of the deadliest conflict the world has ever witnessed. To understand the outbreak of World War II, we must first explore the deep-seated causes that fueled the flames of global conflict. The Great Depression of the 1930s had left the world in economic turmoil. High unemployment, poverty, and political instability created an environment ripe for radical ideologies. The year 1920, known as the Roaring Twenties, were marked by unprecedented economic growth, cultural innovation, and social change. However, the euphoria came to a crashing halt on October 29, 1929, with the catastrophic collapse of the stock market, a day forever etched in history as Black Tuesday. The stock market crash triggered a domino effect that reverberated around the world. Banks failed, businesses shuttered, and millions lost their jobs. In the United States, shantytowns known as Hoovervilles sprang up as the homeless sought refuge. Families were torn apart, struggling to make ends meet. Unemployment rates skyrocketed, reaching staggering levels. Families faced the stark reality of empty dinner tables and uncertain futures. Soup kitchens and bread lines became lifelines for those in need, but even these resources couldn't keep pace with the demand. The Great Depression fueled political unrest and a longing for change. Around the world, citizens sought leaders who promised solutions to their suffering. In Germany, the economic turmoil provided fertile ground for the rise of Adolf Hitler and his Nazi Party, promising a way out of despair. In the United States, President Franklin Roosevelt introduced the New Deal, a series of ambitious programs aimed at tackling unemployment and revitalizing the economy. Through public works projects and social programs, the New Deal aimed to rebuild the nation's infrastructure and restore hope. As we'll explore further in our series, the impact of the Great Depression resonated into the World War II era. The lessons learned during these trying times would shape the responses to the challenges of the future war. The Great Depression served as a crucible that forged nations, reshaped policies, and set the stage for the next chapter in history, World War II. In the wake of Germany's defeat in World War I and the economic turmoil that followed, a new political movement emerged, seeking to address the nation's grievances and restore its pride. This movement was the Nazi Party, formerly known as the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Founded in 1920 by Anton Drexler and Adolf Hitler, the Nazi Party initially attracted a small following. Germany's humiliation through the Treaty of Versailles and the economic hardships of the Great Depression provided fertile ground for the party's growth. Adolf Hitler's charismatic oratory skills and powerful rhetoric resonated with many Germans who were desperate for change. He quickly rose to prominence within the party. The Nazi Party's emblem, featuring the swastika, became an iconic symbol of their movement. The swastika, originally an ancient symbol with positive connotations, was appropriated by the Nazis and transformed into a symbol of their ideology. The Nazis were adept at using propaganda to spread their message. Their propaganda machine employed posters, rallies, and even new media like radio to reach a wide audience. In the year 1923, Hitler and his supporters attempted a coup known as the Beer Hall Putsch, an unsuccessful bid to overthrow the Weimar government in Munich. The putsch led to Hitler's imprisonment. During his time in prison, he wrote Mein Kampf, outlining his ideological beliefs and vision for Germany's future. Following Hitler's release from prison, the Nazi Party reorganized and expanded. The Sturmabteilung, the party's paramilitary wing, played a significant role in their rise to power, using intimidation and violence against political opponents. In the early 1930s, these Nazi Party gained electoral support, capitalizing on the public's frustration with the Weimar government's inability to address the nation's problems. On January 30, 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany by President Paul von Hindenburg, marking a pivotal moment in history. The Reichstag fire of February 1933 provided the Nazis with a pretext to curtail civil liberties. The subsequent passage of the Enabling Act granted Hitler the authority to enact laws without Reichstag approval, effectively consolidating his power. Through a combination of propaganda, political maneuvering, and repression, the Nazi Party solidified its grip on Germany, leading to the establishment of a totalitarian regime. Mass rallies, such as those held in Nuremberg, showcased the party's influence and ideological fervor. The implementation of the Nuremberg Laws in 1935 institutionalized discrimination against Jews and marked a turning point in the party's persecution of minorities. The rise of the Nazi Party laid the foundation for a radical transformation of German society and the tragic events that would unfold during World War II. As the 1930s progressed, Germany, under the leadership of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party, embarked on a path of rapid militarization and aggressive territorial expansion. With Adolf Hitler at the helm, the Nazi regime pursued a policy of militarism and expansionism, seeking to undo the perceived injustices of the Treaty of Versailles and establish Germany as a world power. The German military underwent a dramatic transformation, rearming and modernizing at an unprecedented pace. The military buildup included the expansion of the Army, Navy, and Air Force, with emphasis on advanced weaponry and tactics. In a bold step, Germany remilitarized the demilitarized Rhineland in 1936, directly challenging the Treaty of Versailles and international agreements. The Treaty of Versailles was signed in the year 1919, ended World War I. It imposed harsh penalties on Germany, including territorial losses, military restrictions, and reparations payments. Germany was held responsible for reparations, a substantial financial burden meant to compensate the Allied powers for war damages and expenses. Consequently, harsh economic conditions were imposed on the German nation. Rather than confronting Hitler's ambitions, Western powers pursued appeasement, hoping to avoid another catastrophic conflict. In the years leading up to World War II, the Western powers adopted a policy of appeasement toward Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany, a strategy that aimed to avoid confrontation and maintain peace at any cost. To avoid another catastrophic conflict like World War I and the devastating toll it had taken on humanity, many world leaders, including Neville Chamberlain, the then British Prime Minister, championed appeasement as a means to achieve the goal of peace. However, Adolf Hitler was at the forefront of the world diplomacy as he proved himself to be the charismatic leader of Nazi Germany. Hitler's aggressive ambitions were evident, yet some believed that reasonable concessions might quell his desires for further expansion. One of the most notable instances of appeasement was the Munich Agreement of 1938. British and French leaders, including Chamberlain, met with Hitler to negotiate the fate of the Sudetenland, a region of Czechoslovakia with a significant German-speaking population. A political gesture seen as an effort to avoid conflict, the Sudetenland was ceded to Germany without Czechoslovakia's input. Chamberlain returned to Britain proclaiming peace for our time, believing he had averted war. Chamberlain's efforts were initially celebrated, but the Munich Agreement's aftermath revealed a harsh truth: Hitler's territorial ambitions were insatiable. Shortly after the Munich Agreement, Hitler's Germany continued its expansionist agenda. The occupation of the remaining parts of Czechoslovakia shattered the illusion of appeasement's success. Meanwhile, Hitler's aggressive rearmament and military buildup continued at an alarming pace, further fueling concerns among Western leaders. In a surprising twist, the Nazi-Soviet Pact of 1939, which included a secret protocol to divide Eastern Europe, showcased Germany's willingness to collaborate with unlikely allies. The annexation of Austria was the first aggressive move outside German borders, known as the Anschluss, followed in 1938. The Nazi regime justified this move by claiming to unite all German-speaking people under one banner. The tipping point came with the invasion of Poland in September 1939. Hitler's aggression could no longer be denied. Britain and France finally realized that appeasement had failed to deter his ambitions. As Germany's invasion of Poland triggered Britain and France's declaration of war, appeasement was revealed as a strategy that had only emboldened Hitler. Chamberlain's resignation followed, and Winston Churchill emerged as a vocal critic of appeasement. The world had learned a harsh lesson about the dangers of underestimating aggressive regimes. The policy of appeasement remains a stark reminder of the perils of sacrificing long-term security for short-term peace, as it ultimately failed to prevent the conflict that would engulf the world. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, Imperial Japan pursued an aggressive path, seeking to establish dominance over East Asia. Expanding its empire through military conquest and imperial ambition. Following its victory in the Russo-Japanese War in the year 1905, Japan emerged as a formidable power in the region. However, a combination of economic challenges and nationalistic fervor fueled the desire for further expansion. In 1931, Japan's military invaded Manchuria, a region in northeastern China. This marked the beginning of Japan's aggressive expansion into Chinese territory. The invasion was in which the Japanese military staged a railway explosion as a pretext to justify their actions. The international community condemned Japan's actions, leading to its withdrawal from the League of Nations. However, this setback did little to deter Japan's ambitions. Triggered by the Mukden incident, 1937, the Marco Polo Bridge incident ignited a full-scale war between Japan and China. The Second Sino-Japanese War witnessed widespread brutality and devastation. As Japan occupied large parts of China, puppet states were established to legitimize their control. The city of Nanking, in particular, became a symbol of the horrifying atrocities committed by Japanese forces. Emboldened by their successes, Japan expanded its ambitions beyond China. Territories in Southeast Asia and the Pacific were targeted for their resources and strategic value. As tensions mounted, Germany, Italy, and Japan formed the Axis powers, forging alliances that would shape the conflict to come. In response, the Allied powers, including the United Kingdom, France, and later the Soviet Union and the United States, began to strengthen their own alliances. The spark that ignited the flames of World War II came on a fateful day in September 1939, plunging the world into a conflict of unparalleled scale and devastation. On September 1, 1939, Germany's armies marched into Poland, launching a full-scale invasion that marked a blatant violation of international law. The invasion was swift and brutal. Polish cities were bombed, and ground forces faced overwhelming odds against the German war machine. As chaos ensued, civilians were uprooted from their homes, becoming refugees in their own land. Despite fierce resistance from the Polish military and civilian population, the superior German forces quickly overwhelmed the country. On September 3, 1939, the United Kingdom and France issued ultimatums to Germany, demanding the withdrawal of its forces from Poland. When Germany failed to comply, the United Kingdom and France declared war on Germany on September 3 and 4, respectively. Germany's innovative use of blitzkrieg tactics, lightning-fast, coordinated attacks allowed them to swiftly conquer Poland. This military strategy became a hallmark of their early successes. With Poland under their control, Germany's territorial ambitions expanded further. Nations across Europe witnessed the unsettling reality of German occupation. With these declarations, the world was thrust into a conflict that would reshape nations, redefine alliances, and plunge millions into the horrors of war. Stay tuned with our channel and remember to like and subscribe as we continue to uncover the complexities and stories of World War II in the upcoming episodes. A chapter in history that shaped the course of the 20th century and beyond.